Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is Alan. In our last episode, American Ben broke down 10 flaws with Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. Today we want to expand further into the world of Tony Stark and Iron Man by looking at his armor. A while back we did an entire series looking at various power suits and exoskeletons from various sci-fi franchises. And we want to take that knowledge and apply it to Iron Man's suit. Given that Tony Stark in the comic books and cinematic universe has designed dozens of different armors, all with different purposes and different strengths, it probably won't be easy to find that many flaws. So before we even begin, we do need to explain one piece of information about Tony Stark's armor that will give us a bit of context for our following arguments. At the heart of the Iron Man suit was the arc reactor, the piece of technology that makes the Iron Man suit possible. In our own world today with our current technology, creating an Iron Man suit and all the mechanisms in it is more or less possible. The biggest problem that we face that stops us from developing such a suit is that we lack a mobile energy source that has enough power to fuel an Iron Man suit. The most frequently used portable battery source we use today are lithium-ion based. They're in our laptops, our smartphones, and electric cars. Lithium-ion batteries have been used by the military for various portable techs, including developing prototype exoskeletons. The problem is lithium-ion batteries just don't hold that much energy and they really aren't that powerful. For instance, a typical lithium-ion battery has an energy capacity of 200 watts per hour per kilogram, while gasoline has an energy capacity of 12,000 watts per hour per kilogram. That means gasoline can hold 60 times more energy than the same amount of lithium-ion batteries. That's why a Tesla battery weighs 1,200 pounds, whereas 20 gallons of gas only weighs around 120 pounds. Combustion engines, however, are less efficient than electric ones, and a lot of energy is lost through thermal release. But Tony Stark's arc reactor generates anywhere from 3 to 8 gigajoules per second, which is a crazy massive amount of energy. That's around the same amount of energy released by a 1 kiloton bomb, or a ton of TNT. That's well over 4,000 times more energy than a 1 kilo lithium-ion battery can produce. So clearly Tony Stark has created an incredibly powerful battery source that is also incredibly portable. Something akin to a mobile fusion reactor. With this essentially unlimited power in mind, we can actually now start looking at flaws in the Iron Man suit. Because at first glance, Iron Man suits are pretty much perfect, especially if you take into account all the different variations of it. But if Iron Man's suit does in fact have nearly unlimited power, Tony Stark has just brushed the surface of what the arc reactor can actually do. From what we can tell, Iron Man's defensive measures are relatively low tech. Tony mainly uses the suit's incredible agility and incredibly tough bullet-resistant armor to prevent damage. Against missile threats, we also see that models as early as the Mark III were capable of deploying flares. A shoulder-mounted self-articulating autogun similar to the one deployed by War Machine could function like the automatic point defense system we have protecting US naval ships from short-range missiles. But flares and gun turrets only seem to do well against larger, slow-moving projectiles. Tony Stark faces all sorts of enemies ranging from science fiction to fantasy, and a better all-around solution needs to be found to protect him. An energy shield is one technology that Stark could look into, something similar to the one deployed by Master Chief. But even with something as powerful as the arc reactor, the constant energy needed for an energy shield would be extremely taxing on any system, and it would also prevent physical interactions between Iron Man and his surroundings. So I suggest an alternative. The repulsors on Iron Man's suits, which function as his main form of propulsion, also serve the secondary purpose as a weapon. I think they could also have a third use. By placing multiple repulsors all around Iron Man's suit and by using Jarvis and the suit's sensors to control these repulsors, you can actively create a shield of reactive armor around Iron Man. These repulsors could propel anything from punches from gods or energy blasts from plasma rifles. It works similar in principle to the reactive armor found on modern battle tanks, except that the repulsors here would be reusable. This only works, of course, because of Jarvis, Tony Stark's AI. It's the only thing that has enough processing power and reaction time to actually preemptively launch repulsors at incoming projectiles. It should also be noted for every repulsor being fired, a counter-repulsor would also need to be fired, otherwise the countermeasure would send Tony flying through the air. Now, the initial reason in the Marvel Cinematic Universe why Tony Stark creates the arc reactor is because he suffers multiple shrapnel wounds in his chest, ironically from one of his own bombs. An Afghan doctor by the name of Ho Yinsen was tasked to save Tony's life. The doctor created an electromagnet which he inserted into Tony's chest, which kept all the shrapnel shards inside of his heart from killing him. In order to power the electromagnet, Yinsen had hooked Tony up to a car battery, which he carried around with him. This, of course, did not suit Tony very well, and quickly he began assembling a portable version of the arc reactor. Now, when the arc reactor was built and then refined several times by Tony Stark, for some reason he never created a redundant battery system or a redundant energy system. The arc reactor was not only responsible for powering Iron Man's suit, it was also used to generate the electromagnetic field that kept his heart functional. I think it's a bit foolish for Tony to not create a separate electromagnetic generator that is powered by a battery pack or some other energy source that will turn on should the arc reactor fail.
Okay, you're gonna attach that to the base plate and make sure you...
It would be a pretty simple thing to do and would ensure that even if the arc reactor fails, Tony still has enough time to get back to his lab.
Let's get you comfy. You happy now?
While we're on the subject of redundant systems, why not have multiple arc reactors on Tony's suit? I understand that the reactors are quite expensive, especially early on in the development cycle, but multiple reactors would give Iron Man a secondary power source should the first one fail. Running out of energy is clearly one of Iron Man's single biggest weakness. Without it, he's just an ordinary human being in a very heavy titanium suit. Now, aesthetically speaking, it won't be as cool as having one glowing light in the center of your chest, but maybe two glowing lights over the nipples could be just as cool. Or better yet, why not just keep the arc reactor in Tony's chest so he can still walk around and look like a normie in civilian clothing, and have a separate arc reactor for each one of the Iron Man suits? It seems quite obvious that this would be the best strategy for Stark. Any energy-based concerns you might have over the repulsor reactive armor design I just suggested would be mitigated by the fact that these two reactors would create 16 gigajoules per second. It's a massive amount of energy. Now, we're not really sure what material Iron Man's suit is made of, but I'm guessing it's some kind of advanced titanium alloy, bullet-resistant, blast-resistant, and extremely powerful. Again, weight doesn't seem to be a limiting factor when it comes to the type of materials you choose for the armor because the arc reactor is so damn powerful. But as we've seen in Iron Man 3, the armor is not infallible, and when Ultra Killian heats up the suit to incredibly high temperatures with his hand, the armor simply just melts away. Now, with Tony Stark going up against Thanos once again in the next Avengers movie, it seems only obvious that Tony Stark would have to upgrade his suit to a stronger material because it didn't really do that well in the first place. In Marvel, the two obvious choices would be adamantium or vibranium. Both are rare metals. Adamantium is what Wolverine's skeleton is made up of. But because until recently 20th Century Fox, not Disney, owned the rights of X-Men, there have been limited crossovers between Iron Man and X-Men. Also, deboning Wolverine would be mean. The guy's brain is basically very similar to a puppy's, and he would have no idea what was going on to his body.
Empty your pockets into the tray, sir, or we'll have to. Your pockets, sir?
Lady, the problem isn't in my pants.
On the other hand, vibranium is available in quite large amounts in Wakanda. The problem there is T'Challa, aka the Black Panther and Monarch in charge, is strictly protectionist and doesn't really like giving people access to his nation's most important resource, vibranium. However, after Thanos killed half of the universe, including T'Challa, Wakanda is now kind of ripe for the picking for a multinational defense contractor. See, not everything was bad with the whole Thanos thing. Iron Man's suit, and most likely his smartphone as well, gives Tony Stark access to the entire communication network of the world. But that, of course, is a two-way street, as we see during the Age of Ultron. Even with something as powerful as Jarvis monitoring and protecting his system, in a world where AIs are commonplace, even Jarvis can't prevent Iron Man from being hacked.
Jarvis? I'm sorry, I was asleep. Or I was a dream.
Reboot. Legionnaire has got a buggy suit.
Terrible.
At which point we have to make the argument of installing some kind of kill switch or firewall into the Iron Man suit that can completely close it and Jarvis off from any outside attacks. Again, this would be a relatively simple thing for Tony Stark to do, and with versions of the Iron Man suit like the Extremis armor, which is completely made up of nanobots, Stark also has the ability to fight off nanobot attacks as well if they do attempt to hijack his system. Tony Stark's mind is his ultimate weapon, and the arc reactor was the greatest gift a father could give a son. With these two things, Iron Man has limitless capabilities, which is why this video is less about Iron Man's flaws and more about his full potential being reached, which also is limitless. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode about Iron Man's armor. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that life is a movie and you are the protagonist.